Welcome back to Unquiet You. Today we're going to talk about a topic that has come up a lot recently and I've been thinking a lot about, and I just think it's a really good time to talk about, and that is regrets. It is something a lot of people just assume is part of life, right? Like we have things that we regret and things that we wish we would have done differently. And I actually don't believe in regret. So I do believe that there are things that I would do differently, but I don't believe in regrets. And the reason why is that what I've figured out is every time I have felt regret, and when I've really dug into the regrets or the thing that's come up, is that it wasn't ever about my truth. It was always about someone else's emotions or how someone else would respond. So whether that was protecting someone's emotion or keeping them from having certain feelings towards me, or believing that their truth was more important than my truth. It was never about me. It was never about the decisions I wanted to make internally. I was always doing it for someone else's emotion. And in that moment, when I decided to protect other people's feelings and to avoid a reaction that I thought that they may have, that is when I would make decisions based off of things that I could have regret for later. And I think a lot of times regret comes from doing what doesn't serve you and your aligned life and goals and dreams. Regrets come from doing what serves others. And that is where I think we can start to shift that and really start showing up and making decisions out of our truth and not to protect someone else's truth. I think a lot of us are taught to be super agreeable, to keep the peace, that maybe, other people know more than we do. So we ask people's opinions and they tell us what they think we should do. And so we, lean into that because they're older or they've been around, so they've had a situation happen. And usually it comes from people who do care about us. I believe most of the time it comes from people that we care about. But one of the things I always think when I'm making a decision is, if we are saying yes to something, or we are agreeing to do something that outwardly we can say yes to, and it seems like it's not a big deal, but we know internally that it is a big no for us and that we should not be making that decision and that it's not aligned with who we are and our truth, that is where I feel like regret comes in. That is where I feel like we please someone else in order to keep the peace, to keep their emotions intact, and we let it linger inside of us. And I think when we allow regret to linger inside of us, it causes so many, not just emotional and mental issues down the road, but I actually believe it can cause some physical ailments when we have resentment built up, right? Because when we regret doing something, we automatically will link that person who either convinced us to do it or was involved in the situation, and we can really start to build up a lot of resentment towards that person, which I think will turn into, it's all based off regret. And then the resentment will turn into physical sicknesses and hold us back in multiple ways. So it's really not it's not a regret. So when you do something and you have the feeling of regret, it's really just misalignment. It's you getting out of what's aligned for the highest version of you and what you truly want in life. It's starting to, when a regret plays in, it's us aligning with someone else's desires and someone else's hopes and dreams. And we're just misaligning with where we're at. Sometimes I will say that I think sometimes when we make a decision that could be regret, it's us really, really needing to tap into questioning, why are we doing this? And who are we trying to protect? Most of the time as humans, I do believe we will protect someone else's emotions over ours in the short term. And that will always hurt us in the long term. So a couple of things, even just recently, there's very little in my life that I will tell you I would have regret or that I would change and do differently, because I believe I am where I am because of the things that have happened and the situations that have happened. However, even in the past year, there are a couple situations where I would have done them very differently. And looking back, even immediately once they were done, I realized I was doing it based off someone else's emotion. And two of them, even in the past year, is one is I had a surgery done. It wasn't a surgery, but I had what's called air sculpting done a year ago. And I did not want to do this procedure. I told myself I wanted to do this procedure. And the entire reason I did it, so air sculpting is you're awake and they can like remove some fat. So it's not plastic surgery. It's not liposuction. You're awake the whole time, but they can remove fat from certain places. And, you're supposed to be up like walking the next day and everything was great and there's no scars and there's all these amazing results that were supposed to come and all these things. But I made the decision to have it after the last Christmas that we were married. And when my husband and I first got together, he laid down two rules. He was like, these are the only two rules that I have for us. And one is he asked me to never get plastic surgery. He said he'd had enough people in his life who had it. He didn't believe in it. He didn't like it. He was like, you can do whatever you want to be happy, but please don't ever have plastic surgery, which if you know now things, then this is all comical. But that was one of his rules. And the other rule was if either of us start to gain weight, we should openly be able to tell each other that we should get in shape. But so the last Christmas, it was kind of my breaking point. He had given me a gift that he didn't even know what was in the box. He had an employee buy the gift and she did well. She knew my personality. She got something from a store that I do like. The coat never fit. It was beautiful. It just was not me, all the things. And I remember thinking like, screw this. Like I'm going to go and do something that's just really going to piss him off. And so that was my way of doing it. Now, looking back, I'm the one who long-term had the after effects of the surgery or the procedure. It was not super easy to recover from. It actually did not benefit me in any way. I still have nerve damage from it. And I actually believe due to the scar tissue buildup, I have to work harder to get some of the weight off. But in the moment, I made that decision out of an emotional attachment to someone else. And I was hoping that he would be mad is the reality. Another decision I made recently was the way we decided to tell our kids that we were divorcing. I had a certain way I wanted to do it. He did not. He wanted to protect himself, basically. He didn't feel like he could emotionally do it the way I wanted to. And so I accepted his way and I did it the way he wanted to. And the minute I did it, I regretted it because I know the emotional attachment I had with my children and how I wanted to talk to them. And I realized looking back that I was trying to protect him when in reality, I didn't need to protect him. And that I should have stayed aligned with my wants and my values and my emotional connection in that situation. But I allowed my emotions for him and trying to protect him and trying to protect what I thought he might feel or what he thought he might feel from doing it my way. So those are a couple of things just in the past year. And looking back, it's all fine. And both things, they've worked out and all the things. But those are two things that could have gone so differently for me had I just not tried to attach to a different person's emotions and stuck with what was aligned with me. It was not aligned for me to be down. The recovery sucked. And looking back, I'm like, that was just no fun. Like there's literally no joy out of that. And I was doing it hoping to get a negative reaction, as crazy as that sounds. But so anyway, so it's just two different situations where had I stayed aligned with who I truly was and what I truly wanted, I would have made very different choices in both of those arenas. So when we hear about this all the time, I talk to so many people who say they've been diagnosed with an illness and they're older, or say they feel like they're close to death, or, they're an older generation and they start talking about all the things that they regret and wanting all these relationships fixed. And, I always say, like, fix it now. Like, don't wait until you're on your deathbed or you have this crazy illness and you expect people to stop what they're doing and forget the past and forget how you treated them and show up because you may not make it 6 more months. This is a hard one for a lot of people with me, is that I do not feel guilt. I do not feel regret. I'm not going to wish I would have said something to you. I'm going to tell you everything in that moment. And sometimes relationships aren't going to last. Sometimes I think people in our lives are meant to be loved from a distance, and that's okay. But if you call me and tell me that you're sick, I will never wish ill on you. And I want everyone to live amazingly healthy lives. But if you want me to forget the damage that you've done, or forget how you treated me, or forget the amount of times that I tried to tell you my truth and you still kept ignoring it, and you want me to forget all of that to come see you or to make your end of the life better, it's not going to happen. And I'm not going to carry guilt with this. I'm not going to carry any emotion other than I wish you the best. And I truly believe this is why I tell everyone in my life exactly what I feel. I don't wait. I don't hold things back. Everyone in my life knows where I stand at all times. And even situations that are really hard, I will tell my truth. And if someone, chooses to overstep boundaries time and time again, I do get to a point where I have to disconnect from that person, or I have to walk away. And I'm okay with that because I know that nothing's left unsaid. And I think that's where, it always breaks my heart when I see an older generation who, they wish they would have done something different, and they wish they could have gotten their relationships with their kids back on track, or they wish they would have gone a different route with, what they did for their living. And they always had a passion for art and they never did it. And now they can't because their hands don't work right or something. And I'm like, man, if we all just aligned with what we truly wanted and what our truth is, and we spoke our truth, and we showed the people who matter to us our aligned truth, no one would have regret. No one would want at the end of their life to change things and to course correct, or to pretend things don't happen. I think this happens a lot in families, right? Where it's, I recently had a client in a similar situation where someone from their past was very, very ill and they didn't have a whole lot of time. And, her first instinct was, oh my gosh, I feel guilty. I haven't seen this person in forever. But the more we talked about it and worked through it, she really didn't have guilt. She thought she was supposed to have guilt because they wanted her to feel guilty. They made it sound as if she was supposed to forget everything that had ever happened and just be the happy-go-lucky person. And she really didn't have guilt. She just thought that's what you did. You had guilt. You dropped what you were doing. You went in to see them. And the more we talked about it, it wasn't her aligned truth. And she had already spoken her truth. So she was really able to allow that situation to be what it was and wish that person the best, and keep going on about her life without having to stop where she was and what she was living. So I ask people a lot. I tell my kids, like, I think there's always going to be things that we would do differently in life because we do grow, we become smarter, we learn things, and looking back, we're like, wow, that was probably not the best move. I probably would have done something different had that situation been, if I was doing it now or whatever. But I actually think that's a part of what makes life so beautiful, is that you're not supposed to know everything in every stage. And there's always going to be decisions. There's things I did in my 20s that I wouldn't even have the energy to do in my 40s. And so I'm glad I did them then, because if I had the knowledge I had now, it was probably going to be pretty boring, because I live a pretty boring life, I feel like, now. So I don't call those regrets. I just call that part of life. And learning and growing as who we are, just some of the choices that you make younger, it is out of insecurity, and it is out of trying to fit in, or it is out of trying to figure it out, right? Like we always are trying to figure out who we are and what we want. So those I don't think are regrets, and I want people to stop seeing them as regrets. But I would ask people, and I talk to my clients a lot about this, and I talk to my kids about this, and the people around me, is what can you do today to ensure that you don't get to a point where you have regrets, or you don't get to a point where someone tries to convince you that you should regret something and have guilt? I think if we can all focus on not feeling guilty for not showing up for someone else or not doing something the way someone else wanted us to do it, that is a true gift of like just being aligned and enlightened and not having to carry. I promise the guilt, when you have guilt and regret carrying on your back, it is a very, very heavy backpack, and it will start to really weigh you down. So I have just chosen to not carry those two with me and not carry a backpack, and trust that I'm showing the most aligned version of myself. And when I do make decisions and I notice that I'm doing it for someone else's emotion, I have to check in and I ask myself, like, are you going to feel differently about this decision if you decide to make it for this person's emotion? Or what is this really aligned with who you are and where you want to be? And I think going into the holidays, this is a big one, because I hear people all the time say, well, I have to go see this person, or I have to do this because I'll regret it if I don't. What if it's their last holiday? Or my mom's going to carry this resentment around and be mad all year if I don't show up, or if I don't go travel, family's going to think I'm not involved. And it's okay. It's okay if they're upset with you. It's okay if you don't go to all of the things. I would ask you to check in with you. How do you feel about it? What do you want to do? Like, if you wanted to go to a family function that maybe you're going to feel guilty if you don't go to, what's the joy you can find in it? And maybe you do it for the joy versus doing it out of not feeling guilty, right? Like, if I don't go, I will feel guilty. So let me go so I won't feel guilty, but I'm going to feel miserable the whole time because they're going to judge me, or I don't really like the people, or whatever it may be. Find the joy in why you do want to go and be with those people and do the things that you want to do. So my hope is that we can all get to live a life where we don't have regrets and we don't feel guilty for doing things the way we wanted to do them and being aligned with the truth that we have. And if you are older and you feel like you missed out on your kids, like, go fix it now. Don't wait, right? If you wanted to spend time with family that you haven't done it, like, do it now, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but you don't want something to happen and you do have regret. So even if it's a phone call, or I believe everything can be corrected if it's really aligned with who you are and what your truth is. So I hope that this helped today. And I love seeing people get out of regret and into full alignment. So yeah, see you next time. Thanks for being here and for choosing to be a little louder, a little braver, and a whole lot more you. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love it if you subscribed, left a review, or shared it with someone who needs it. Until next time, keep tuning in to the fire inside. Stay unquiet.